Tonight, Germany has a new Chancellor, the conservative Friedrich Merz, but it took 2 votes before he won a majority in the parliament in Berlin. Earlier, in an unexpected turn, he'd become the first prospective Chancellor in modern German history not to win enough support to be confirmed. The Conservatives are going into coalition with the centre-left Social Democrats. Correspondents say that for many left-wing Social Democrats, he's seen as too conservative, and right-wingers in his own party accuse Mr. Merz of making too many compromises. Although he's now won, analysts say the fact that he had to go twice in one day for votes in Parliament doesn't bode well for the unity of an incoming government.
Herr Bundeskanzler, ich gratuliere Ihnen im Namen des ganzen Hauses zu Ihrer Wahl. Ich wünsche Ihnen persönlich viel Kraft. Der Abgeordnete Friedrich Merz hat die...
The Member of Parliament, Friedrich Merz, has achieved the required majority of at least 316 votes. He has been elected Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany in accordance to Article 63(2) of the Basic Law.
Deutschland gewählt worden.
Well, for more on this, let's speak to the international affairs analyst, Dr. Laskiewicz, who joins me on the line from London. Good to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. Quite a turn of events today. First, he lost by just 6 votes, and then he went back, and he's now the new Chancellor. Put that in some perspective for us.
Well, the implication is quite clear that the previous weaknesses of the German government in the last coalition are still all there, and that therefore these elections have solved nothing. If anything, they've simply underlined the weakness of his power base. He's trying to be all things to all men, I think. He's a Europeanist, he's an Atlanticist, that is to say, supports the USA, and simultaneously Germany first, which is a contradiction there, to say the least. He's on the right, but not right enough for some conservatives, and of course trying to compromise with his political allies, which are to the left of him. And on the whole, it would appear that this vote simply underlines that this entire coalition could collapse, well, not exactly overnight, but certainly is not likely to last long. Nothing has been solved by these elections, therefore.
And I think that really is the crucial point here, the fact that that coalition is clearly under threat. Some of those, even in his own centre-right party, didn't back him, and of course, as you said, it's a centre-right, centre-left coalition, and that is unprecedented in post-war Germany, isn't it? The fact that he had to go twice in one day to Parliament to seek to be elected.
Yes, unprecedented, and simply underlines the weakness of his position. The implication, though, is quite enormous. He's planning, or was planning, to spend a great deal of money on Germany, including for the Russian-Ukraine war. All this is now suddenly in doubt. Whether he can actually implement any policies at all is in doubt. And what this means is that Germany carries on being the sort of a weak member, but Germany is simultaneously the biggest, the most important country in the EU. It cannot be a weak member. And therefore, what this means is the whole of the EU is affected, and its ability to have a vigorous policy of any sort is gravely in doubt at present.
Absolutely. And beyond the potential damage that you talked about, the possibility of the coalition not lasting very long, you've got the far-right AfD snapping at his heels, and they came second in that election. I mean, when he failed to get the necessary votes the first time around today, they called for new elections. So there's something for him to keep at the back or perhaps the front of his mind.
Yes, indeed. In addition to everything making compromises on the left in order to placate his electoral partners, he will now, I think, be forced to make compromises to the right, not just to his own party, but as you rightly say, to the far right. The problem is, how long can he carry on making compromises all round? Being all things to all men muddles the electoral message, and in fact, were another election to be called, it's by no means clear that he would therefore win. So I imagine the best I can state is he'll muddle on for some time, but in the end, the coalition simply will go under with all the strains, and then the far right will have its huge opportunity to finally take power. His message of Germany first, which is, I think, really in response to this threat from the far right, simply isn't strong enough, I don't think, to see him capture more voters or align people of the right with him. So therefore, Germany will remain weak for some time to come.
But then, of course, the AfD has its own problems, doesn't it? Having been classified as right-wing extremists by domestic intelligence in Germany and suing as a result.
Yes, this has come across as more of a propaganda move, really, because it's very hard to see that they are some sort of terrorist threat, which is the implication. Actually being called a far-right extremist party probably doesn't hurt them in the polls, in the sense that many people are tired of the wishy-washiness of democracy, especially in the last few years. And the next few months, when he struggles on, our new Chancellor, will simply underline this. So insofar as being labelled like this is really a step from a political act, it, in the sense that it tries to get them not eligible for elections and that sort of thing, it doesn't come across well. And also, I don't think it will actually damage the far-right party here.
And of course, he's now become Chancellor, Friedrich Merz. Beyond the challenges that you mentioned that he faces from his coalition, and obviously the AfD, as we said, snapping at his heels, I mean, just take us through the other challenges that he faces. I mean, he's got Donald Trump in America, he's got the problems that are unfolding as a result with NATO. There's also a war in Europe, and of course there's the German economy, there's American tariffs, there's so many things, aren't there?
There are indeed, and when he's in a weak government, this will simply exacerbate the issue. As with Donald Trump, he now faces here the key problem of Europe, because he will have to speak through Europe, speaking with one resolute voice, and this he cannot do, not easily anyway. And therefore, Donald Trump, in a sense, will be able to act with far more freedom than might otherwise be the case. Moreover, NATO is dead in the water, but Germany is actually wants to be a part of NATO, wants NATO to function. So this is, of course, a bad start for him. The real problem when it comes down to it is that Germany as a nation never was very enthusiastic about Ukrainian war, and his now attempts to somehow come back on board with Donald Trump will be hampered by this. After all, the very term Germany first implies that Germany should think about its own problems, and as you rightly point out, the economy. The money that goes into it will pass muster with the German electorate if it's spent on Germany, but it's very hard to see much support for him spending money on Ukraine, which of course Ukraine desperately needs, because America will not be providing as much money now in the future.
And, since we've got you here, and I apologize if I've sort of sprung this on you, I wonder if I might get your take on the drone attacks by Ukraine, which have forced the Russian authorities to shut all four of Moscow's airports for several hours overnight, closures coming just days before foreign leaders, including the Chinese leader, gather in Moscow for the annual military parade marking the defeat of Nazi Germany. Nobody was killed, but analysts say that symbolically it is quite important because it's embarrassing for President Putin, who's about to stage Victory Day, the fact that these drones were able to penetrate Moscow's defenses. What is your take on that?
I think that's absolutely correct. It's not just embarrassing, though. I'd go much further. How can he possibly hold a victory parade and even have foreign leaders if there's a possibility of a drone attack? I mean, it really would be the ultimate embarrassment to have a drone attack in the middle of Red Square. The fact of the matter is that when he decided on this ceasefire for 3 days, it was an interesting idea, but the time for that sort of move, the time when it might have worked, I think is gone. Zelensky almost certainly was not agreed and will not agree to it. And on the contrary, what he will do is seek to extort the maximum embarrassment from this event. And moreover, it will show up the sheer weakness of Russia, which has after all failed to decisively conquer Ukraine for 3 years. And so in that respect, yes, it will, if a drone attack takes place, it will be as serious as the British bombing in Moscow when the Germans turned up there during World War II, during the time of the Pact, to show how Russia could still work with Germany. It is a very serious dilemma for President Putin whether to go ahead at all.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, the international affairs analyst, talking to me on the line there from London.